Welcome back with another exciting video. Enjoy watching and don't forget to like and leave a comment.
What if the most terrifying secrets in America were never hidden by nature, but by people? What if somewhere beneath the silent deserts, forgotten forests, and abandoned highways of the United States, there still existed places so ancient, so mysterious, and so disturbing that even historians, archaeologists, and government officials refuse to explain them? Tonight's story is not fiction. It is inspired by real locations, unexplained discoveries, forgotten history, and chilling events hidden deep inside America's past. Stay with us until the end, because what happened in this story changed the lives of everyone involved forever. In the autumn of 1998, a small independent historian named Daniel Carter arrived in the state of Arizona with one purpose: to investigate an old legend whispered among locals for decades. Daniel was not the type of man who believed in ghosts, curses, or supernatural stories. He was practical, logical, and deeply obsessed with forgotten history. For nearly 15 years, he had spent his life studying abandoned settlements, Native American legends, and unexplained disappearances across the western United States. But one particular story had followed him for years. A story about a place locals called the Hollow Ridge. Located several miles away from any marked road, hidden deep within a dry canyon system near northern Arizona, Hollow Ridge was said to contain ruins older than any officially recorded civilization in the region. According to local stories, strange stone structures could be found there, structures that did not match Native American architecture, Spanish colonial ruins, or anything historians had previously documented. Even stranger, people who visited the area often reported unusual experiences. Compasses stopped working, cameras malfunctioned, voices were heard in empty spaces, and in some cases, visitors simply disappeared. Most dismissed these stories as exaggerated myths designed to scare tourists away. Daniel did not. Because months before his trip, he had received a letter from an elderly man named Thomas Reed. Thomas claimed he had worked as part of a geological survey team in 1974. Their mission was simple: map underground cave systems in northern Arizona. But according to Thomas, what they discovered was never included in the final report. He described descending into a narrow cave entrance near Hollow Ridge and finding something impossible: a vast underground chamber. Smooth black walls, strange symbols carved into pillars, and in the center of the chamber, a circular stone structure unlike anything he had ever seen. Thomas wrote that after documenting the site, their team was suddenly ordered to leave. Within days, federal officials confiscated their notes, photographs, and equipment. The site was sealed. No explanation was ever given. Thomas ended his letter with one chilling sentence: "If you go looking for it, do not stay after sunset." Most people would have thrown the letter away. Daniel booked a flight. 3 days later, he arrived in Arizona, carrying cameras, notebooks, camping supplies, and a deep curiosity that would soon become his greatest mistake. The first few days were uneventful. Daniel interviewed local residents from a nearby town. Most refused to speak. Some laughed nervously. Others became visibly uncomfortable when Hollow Ridge was mentioned. An elderly woman working at a gas station finally spoke to him. She leaned forward and quietly said, "People don't disappear there because they get lost." Daniel asked what she meant. The woman paused, then whispered, They disappear because something there doesn't want visitors. She refused to say more. That night, Daniel reviewed old maps and finally located a likely path leading toward Hollow Ridge. At sunrise, he began the hike. The journey was brutal. Dry heat, sharp rocks, no visible trails. Hours passed before he noticed something unusual. The temperature suddenly dropped. Not gradually, instantly. One moment, the desert air was warm. The next, it felt unnaturally cold. He checked his equipment. His digital thermometer had frozen, not broken, frozen at exactly 41 degrees Fahrenheit. He continued walking. Then he saw them. Stone pillars, half buried in sand and earth, weathered by centuries. Each pillar stood nearly 8 feet tall and was covered with symbols he did not recognize. Triangles, spirals, circular markings resembling eyes. None matched known regional languages. Daniel photographed everything. As he moved deeper into the area, the landscape became increasingly unnatural. The canyon walls formed strange symmetrical patterns. Rocks appeared intentionally arranged, almost architectural. Then, just before sunset, he found it. A narrow opening hidden behind collapsed stone, the entrance to the cave. At first glance, it looked ordinary, but as Daniel approached, an overwhelming feeling washed over him. Not fear, not excitement, something else. A deep, instinctive warning, as though every part of his body was telling him to leave. He ignored it. Using a flashlight, Daniel entered. The tunnel descended sharply. The deeper he walked, the quieter the world became. No wind, no insects, no outside sound. Only his footsteps. After nearly 20 minutes, the tunnel opened into a chamber so massive, Daniel could barely see the ceiling. His flashlight beam revealed smooth black walls, reflecting almost no light. Ancient pillars lined the room, and there, exactly as Thomas described, stood the circular stone structure. It was enormous, at least 15 feet across. Its surface was engraved with concentric rings and symbols resembling stars. Daniel approached slowly. He touched the stone. Instantly, his flashlight flickered, then died. Darkness swallowed everything. Daniel cursed and reached for backup batteries, but before he could replace them, he heard it. A sound, soft at first, like distant whispering, then clearer. Voices, multiple voices, speaking in what sounded like fragmented English. Impossible. Daniel froze. The voices seemed to come from all directions. Some sounded close, others impossibly far. He turned on a backup flashlight. Nothing. No one. Yet the voices continued. One phrase repeated over and over. "You should not be here." Daniel's breathing became rapid. He packed his equipment and began moving toward the exit. But something was wrong. The tunnel was gone.
Where the entrance should have been, there was only solid wall. Daniel stared in disbelief. He searched frantically. No opening, no tunnel, just black stone. Panic set in. Hours passed, or what felt like hours. Time became impossible to track. His watch had stopped, battery drained. His camera screens showed only static. The voices grew louder, sometimes whispering, sometimes screaming. Daniel later wrote in his notebook that he began experiencing visual distortions. Shapes moving in peripheral vision, shadows crossing walls, figures standing between pillars, always disappearing when directly observed. At one point, he claimed to have seen a human silhouette standing on top of the circular structure. Tall, thin, motionless, watching him, then gone. Daniel eventually collapsed from exhaustion. When he woke, he was outside, lying in desert sand, morning sunlight above him. The cave entrance had vanished, not collapsed, gone, as if it had never existed. His equipment was scattered around him, most devices destroyed, memory cards corrupted, batteries drained. But his notebook remained. Inside were pages of frantic writing. Some entries Daniel remembered writing, others he did not. One page contained a sentence repeated dozens of times. "It is older than history." Another page simply read, "The door is not a door." Daniel returned home deeply shaken. Friends described him as changed. Before Arizona, he had been energetic, skeptical, and intensely rational. Afterward, he became withdrawn, sleep-deprived, paranoid. He refused interviews, stopped researching, and according to those close to him, he developed an obsession with astronomical charts and ancient star alignments. He believed the chamber was not simply an archaeological site. He believed it was something else entirely, a structure designed with a purpose humanity no longer understood. Over the next 2 years, Daniel attempted to revisit Hollow Ridge 3 separate times. He never found the location again. Coordinates failed, landmarks appeared different, paths no longer matched his original notes. It was as though the place had erased itself. In 2001, Daniel disappeared. His vehicle was discovered parked near an isolated Arizona roadside. Inside were maps, notebooks, and one final audio recorder. The final recording lasted only 47 seconds. Most of it contained static, wind, heavy breathing. Then Daniel's voice, calm, almost emotionless. He said, "I found it again." A long silence followed. Then, "No, it found me." The recording ended with a sound investigators could never explain. A low metallic hum, followed by what sounded like multiple voices speaking simultaneously. Daniel Carter was never seen again. His case remains officially unsolved. To this day, stories about Hollow Ridge continue circulating among hikers, researchers, and paranormal investigators. Some believe it is merely a legend built upon natural cave systems and psychological stress. Others believe something far stranger lies beneath the Arizona desert. An ancient structure, a forgotten civilization, or perhaps not something meant to be understood at all. Because sometimes history is not lost. Sometimes it is hidden. And perhaps the most terrifying thought is this: what if humanity is not the first civilization to disappear from this land? What if traces still remain beneath our feet, waiting patiently for someone curious enough to find them? And if Daniel Carter's final words were true, then maybe the greatest mystery was never that he found Hollow Ridge, but that Hollow Ridge may have been searching for him, too.
In 2004, 3 years after Daniel vanished, a Rebecca documentary filmmaker named Rebecca Hayes became obsessed with his case. Rebecca specialized in unexplained American history, Unlike sensational paranormal channels that chased cheap ghost stories, Rebecca built her reputation by investigating real disappearances, abandoned government projects, and historical mysteries hidden in plain sight. When she first learned about Daniel's disappearance, she assumed it was a tragic case of a researcher getting lost in dangerous desert terrain. But after speaking with Daniel's younger brother, Michael Carter, her opinion changed completely. Michael allowed Rebecca to review Daniel's remaining journals. What she found was deeply disturbing. Daniel's early entries were normal: dates, coordinates, weather observations, sketches of stone pillars and cave structures. But the later entries became increasingly irrational. Some pages contained hand-drawn star maps. Others included repeated symbols matching those carved on the pillars. Most unsettling of all were Daniel's final pages. They described dreams, not ordinary dreams, recurring visions. Daniel claimed he repeatedly saw the same underground chamber, but in the dreams it was no longer empty. It was filled with people, hundreds of them, standing silently around the circular stone structure. None moved, none spoke. They simply watched. And at the center stood a figure Daniel called the Keeper. He never described its face, only its shape. Tall, thin, wrapped in something resembling black cloth or shadow. Daniel wrote, "It does not feel human." Rebecca initially dismissed this as psychological deterioration caused by trauma, until she found one final note folded between two pages. It was not written by Daniel. The handwriting was different, older, more rigid. The note contained only coordinates and one sentence. Below the second ridge, entrance changes with moon position. No signature, no explanation. Rebecca should have handed everything to authorities. Instead, curiosity won. In October 2004, Rebecca assembled a small team: a cameraman named Leo, a sound engineer named Marcus, and a local wilderness guide named Alan Torres. Their mission was simple: travel to northern Arizona, verify Daniel's findings, film everything, leave before nightfall. At least, that was the plan. The team arrived under clear skies. Conditions were ideal. Alan led them through a route matching Daniel's journals. After nearly 6 hours of hiking, they found something extraordinary. Not the cave, something even stranger. A stone staircase built directly into canyon rock, descending into the earth, half buried by sand and erosion. The stairs appeared ancient, far older than any modern structure. No official maps showed their existence. Rebecca filmed continuously. Her excitement was obvious. "This is it," she reportedly said on camera. "We finally found proof." The team descended. The staircase led into darkness. The air became colder with every step. At approximately 200 feet below ground, they entered a narrow tunnel system. Unlike natural caves, these tunnels appeared deliberately shaped. Walls were smooth, corners unnaturally precise, as though cut using advanced tools. No tool marks, no erosion patterns, nothing consistent with normal geology. Later, Marcus noted something odd in his audio logs. The deeper they traveled, the less ambient sound existed. Not reduced, absent. No echoes, no dripping water, no shifting dust. Even footsteps sounded muted, as if the tunnels absorbed sound itself. Then Leo's camera malfunctioned. The image feed distorted. Horizontal static lines crossed the screen. Battery percentage dropped from 89% to 0 in less than 30 seconds. Backup batteries also failed. One by one, all electronics began shutting down. Flashlights dimmed, audio recorders glitched, GPS devices lost signal. Alan became visibly uncomfortable. He wanted to leave immediately.
Rebecca refused. They continued, and eventually they reached it. The chamber. Larger than Daniel described, much larger. Their flashlight beams barely touched the far walls. Black stone pillars rose from floor to ceiling. The circular structure remained in the center, exactly as Daniel had documented. But this time, it was active. Not physically moving, not glowing, something subtler. The stone surface emitted a faint vibration, almost imperceptible. Marcus described it as feeling sound rather than hearing it. A frequency, low, constant, almost biological. Rebecca approached to examine carvings. That was when Alan screamed. The others turned. He was pointing toward one of the pillars. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then Leo adjusted his flashlight, and everyone saw it. Handprints, human handprints, pressed into the black stone. Dozens of them, not painted, embedded, as though human hands had somehow melted into solid rock. Some were small, child-sized, others adult, all distorted, stretched unnaturally.
Marcus reportedly vomited. Alan demanded they leave immediately. But Rebecca was hypnotized by what she was seeing. She began filming the handprints. And then, the voices started. At first, Marcus believed it was radio interference. Soft murmurs. Indistinct. But within seconds, the sounds became unmistakable. Whispering. Human whispering. Coming from every direction. No visible speakers. No movement. Just voices. Leo later described hearing his own name. Spoken clearly. From somewhere behind him. He turned. No one. Then Rebecca froze. She stared toward the center platform. Her expression changed completely. Confusion. Then horror. She whispered, "Do you see that?" No one answered. Because they all saw it. Standing beside the circular structure was a figure. Tall. Motionless. Impossible to estimate clearly. Almost blurred. As though the eye could not focus on it. Alan screamed and ran. Marcus followed. Leo dropped his equipment. Rebecca remained frozen for several seconds. Then the figure moved. Not walking. Not stepping. Simply appearing closer. That was enough. Rebecca finally ran. The team fled blindly through tunnels. Several reported the layout had changed. Passages no longer matched entry routes. Turns led to dead ends. Walls appeared where openings had previously existed. Panic erupted. Marcus became separated. His screams echoed briefly, then stopped. The others never saw him again. After nearly 20 minutes of chaos, Rebecca, Leo, and Alan found daylight. They escaped. Barely. Alan refused further involvement and disappeared from public contact. Leo quit filmmaking entirely. Rebecca returned home with what little footage survived. Most recordings were corrupted. Audio files contained only static and distorted frequencies. Except one clip. 6 seconds long. The footage was unstable. Dark. Grainy.
silhouette visible. It showed the chamber, the circular structure, and in the background, a tall silhouette standing perfectly still, watching the camera. The clip was analyzed repeatedly. Experts could not explain the distortion. No evidence of digital manipulation was found. Before Rebecca could release her documentary, something unexpected happened. Her apartment was broken into. Hard drives missing. Documents gone. No signs of forced entry. Police found no suspects. Weeks later, Rebecca publicly announced she was canceling the project. No explanation. No interviews. No further discussion. She disappeared from media entirely. Years later, in a rare anonymous forum post believed to be written by Rebecca, one message appeared. "We thought it was a place." Then another line. "It is not a place." And finally, "It notices when you notice it." No one knows what she meant. To this day, Hollow Ridge remains undocumented in any official archaeological registry. No known expedition has successfully relocated the chamber since 2004. Yet reports continue. Hikers describing strange cold zones, missing time, dead batteries, whispering voices carried on empty desert wind. And every few years, someone claims to have found black stone pillars buried beneath Arizona sand, only for the evidence to vanish, as though the desert itself is protecting something, or hiding it. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not what Hollow Ridge is, but why it exists. Who built it? How old is it? And why do so many who search for it either disappear or return changed forever? Because in America's forgotten landscapes, beneath ordinary earth and silent stone, history may still hide truths too disturbing for modern civilization to accept. And maybe some doors are not meant to be opened, not because something is inside, but because something may be waiting for someone curious enough to enter. To be continued.